What if everything we thought we knew about comets was wrong? What if an object from beyond our solar system was challenging the very laws of physics we've spent centuries establishing? And what if the truth about this visitor is being deliberately kept from us? Right now, somewhere in the darkness of space, an object called Atlas is defying explanation. It's not behaving like any comet we've ever seen. And the deeper scientists look, the more impossible it becomes to explain. Atlas has returned to the center of scientific attention, not because of wild speculation, but because of concrete measurements that refuse to make sense. Post-perihelion images reveal something deeply unsettling, a compact nucleus without the massive tail that should be there. Precision tracking shows the object moving laterally, accelerating in ways that violate our understanding of how comets work. But what's happening behind closed doors might be even more troubling than the object itself. On November 4, 2025, President Trump made an unexpected announcement on Truth Social. NASA Administrator Sean Duffy was being replaced by billionaire Jared Isaacman. The timing raised immediate questions throughout the astronomical community. This change came right after a controversial Twitter exchange involving Kim Kardashian, a coincidence too strange to ignore. Was this simply routine? Or does it have something to do with what Atlas observations are revealing? While Americans wait for their government shutdown to end and for NASA to release its best images from the high-rise camera, something extraordinary happened. China broke the silence. On October 3, 2025, the China National Space Administration released images captured by the Tianwen-1 Mars orbiter from 28.96 million kilometers away. These aren't amateur photographs. They're professional scientific data from one of the world's most sophisticated space missions, the Tianwen-1. Orbiter has been in Mars orbit since February 2021. Its high-resolution Hyaric camera features a 38.7-centimeter primary mirror. While slightly smaller than America's 50-centimeter aperture camera, it captured something revolutionary. The Chinese images show Atlas's nucleus surrounded by a coma spanning several thousand kilometers. Even more impressive, Chinese researchers created a complete animation tracking Atlas's movement across the Martian sky, using a series of 30-second exposures that capture the object in real time. Then, an American congresswoman decided to break the official silence. In a social media post, she confirmed what many suspected. She had just spoken with NASA about Atlas. As soon as the government reopens, they'll release images and data. Unfortunately, bureaucratic reasons prevent this until then. She went further, stating that Dr. Avi Loeb from Harvard was correct in his initial analysis of the anomalous behavior. NASA observed this too. She's confident this will be one of many interstellar objects we can now track with advanced technology. This statement explodes with implications. First, it officially confirms NASA observed the same anomalies Loeb identified. Second, it suggests far more anomalous interstellar objects exist than the public knows. Third, it admits crucial data is being withheld for bureaucratic reasons. The question becomes, what exactly are they seeing? The numbers tell a disturbing story. Models based on recent observations, using the same parameters reference teams routinely employ, point to two fundamental changes in Atlas's trajectory. First, inexplicable lateral displacement. The object showed significant left-right variations relative to previous predictions. Strangely, there was no vertical displacement, suggesting a highly specific, controlled movement pattern. Second, persistent non-gravitational acceleration. The acceleration signal continues, though revised to approximately one-third the initial post-perihelion value. Even reduced, this acceleration maintains statistical significance and remains unexplained by conventional gravitational forces. Technically, this means additional acceleration exists in the orbital plane, in parameters known as A1 and A2, while the perpendicular component A3 remains compatible with zero. In simple terms, forces act laterally and radially without lifting the object out of its movement plane. This creates what we might call the 5 billion ton paradox. Here's where physics becomes impossible to ignore. The standard explanation for non-gravitational comet acceleration is straightforward. Mass ejection creates a rocket effect that modifies trajectory. Using conservation of momentum with measured values and assuming typical ejection velocities for cometary gases in the hundreds of meters per second range, physical estimates indicate Atlas should have lost over 13% of its mass during its close solar passage. This scale implies releasing billions of tons of dust and gas that should form a vast, detectable coma and tail visible even through modest telescopes. The problem? Post-perihelion images show nothing like this massive cloud. Instead, the nucleus appears compact and the coma modest. Reducing the estimated acceleration eases quantitative pressure, requiring less mass loss, but doesn't resolve the fundamental paradox. Non-gravitational acceleration exists without a cloud matching classical calculations. The chemical composition makes things even stranger. Preliminary spectroscopy reveals traces that defy explanation. There's nickel predominance with almost complete iron absence. The carbon monoxide to water ratio is extremely elevated, with signatures compatible with rare volatile compounds, possible byproducts of industrial processing like nickel tetracarbonyl. These readings are shocking for a body supposedly originating from cold, primitive space regions that typically produce ice-rich objects with standard rocky composition. Optical polarization measurements indicate extreme negative values interpreted as signals of large, highly porous, structurally complex particles completely unlike what's observed in typical comets from our system. With current evidence, only 3 hypotheses remain scientifically viable. First, an atypical natural comet with expanded models contemplating directional ejection, particles that don't form extensive comas, or ejection at much higher velocities. These adjustments would preserve natural origin, albeit exceptional. Second, non-thermal mechanisms, or internal engines providing impulse sources that expel mass at velocities far higher than expected for thermal degassing, drastically reducing required mass loss. Third, an artificial probe or artifact requiring extraordinary demonstrations including artificial emissions, geometric structure, and uncontroversial industrial compositions. Though improbable initially, this hypothesis cannot be discarded until specific observational tests refute it. Atlas presents 10 definitive anomalies that make it unlike anything we've encountered. It follows a retrograde trajectory nearly aligned with the ecliptic plane. Atlas entered our solar system on a retrograde orbit, but aligned within a few degrees of the planetary orbital plane. Interstellar objects usually arrive from random directions. This alignment is statistically almost impossible. Images captured an anti-tail jet directed at the sun, a beam of dust and gas pointing directly at our star. This behavior contradicts traditional cometary physics, where solar radiation pushes material backward. Mass and velocity estimates indicate Atlas's nucleus possesses above-average dimensions combined with high displacement velocity. This association is extremely rare and may indicate material more resistant than common ice and dust. Atlas performed a synchronized sequence of planetary approaches, making coordinated close passes to major planets that made direct Earth observation difficult. This orbital choreography deliberately reduced our window for collecting the most sensitive data. The chemical composition shows unusual nickel predominance, almost complete iron absence, and high carbon monoxide to water ratios. This suggests origin in astrophysical environments completely different from anything known. Optical polarization revealed extreme negative values more intense than usual for cometary dust, pointing to larger, highly porous particles with complex internal structures uncommon in comets of local origin. Trajectory projections indicate approximate origin from the same celestial region as the famous 1977 WOW radio signal. This directional coincidence reignited debates about specific cosmic routes. Atlas showed sudden brightness increase with strong green emission, visibly altering its coloration. This brightness didn't follow traditional thermal activity curves, appearing in unexpected peaks. The acceleration measurements indicate non-gravitational forces, typically explained by gaseous material ejection. However, subsequent images didn't show debris quantities justifying such impulse, presenting a fundamental physical paradox. Despite fragmentation and gas emission, Atlas maintained apparently uniform, symmetric ejection without showing recoil expected by Newton's third law. This suggests precisely distributed impulses or extraordinary internal composition. The decisive window arrives in December 2025. A coordinated observation plan between late November and January, with a critical point on December 19, 2025, will directly test these hypotheses. The scientific community seeks clear evidence. Extensive coma clouds compatible with mass loss exceeding 10%, defined spectroscopic signatures of carbon monoxide, water, nickel, and exotic compounds. Non-thermal emissions, including gamma rays and microwaves, indicating unconventional energetic processes. And detailed polarization mapping to characterize particles. High-precision astrometric data will verify maneuvers or variable acceleration. This combination of data will distinguish between natural massive ejection, high-velocity directional exhaustion, and hypotheses of exotic or artificial origin. The question isn't just what Atlas is. The question is what it means for everything we thought we understood about our place in the universe. And why are we only getting answers now after political pressure forced reluctant hands? The countdown to December 19th has begun. Whatever we discover may change everything.